is Elysabeth Alfano, and in case you didn't know, you are at Fear No Art Presents The Dinner Party. So what happens is I invite 3 cultural luminaries, usually artists, but sometimes entrepreneurs or politicians, and I invite a celebrity chef to cook for them. So over food and wine, tonight we're having Hertzberger wine and Vosges chocolate and a couple artist performances, the conversations flow. So I'm surprised that you live in Chicago. What keeps you here? When I would think for that you'd want to be in New York or LA.
Screenwriting keeps me in Chicago. Screenwriting allows me to stay in Chicago. Had I just been a performer, I would have probably, 90% of the businesses
right.
in LA, the other 10's in New York, whatever, or in Canada now, thank you, our Canadian friends in the audience. I'd worked on My Bodyguard and adapted Sexual Perversity in Chicago into a movie called About Last Night.
I love that movie.
Big Chicago hit. Well, Denise DeCoulier and I did that, and that enabled us to stay here. And was recently married and starting a family, and I just wanted to, I knew what it was like out there, and I didn't want to go. I wanted to stay here. And this is the place where my head doesn't explode. Plus, then when I get to the carousel, and unlike in LA where people are wearing like jumpsuits with sparkles and rhinestones on them, you get to the baggage carousel at O'Hare, and we're surrounded by all these dumpy people, and nobody's trying to compete, and it's like in fashions that are 10 years. I'm like, I'm home. I love it. I mean, I'm here. It's great.
You were talking to me today when we went to Fox that, in addition to Wait, Wait, Don't Tell Me, you're working on a documentary for PBS
Yes.
on the Constitution.
Yes.
So something altogether different that I wouldn't have thought of for you.
Yes. Well, I mean, the weird thing about me is that I never ever thought that I would make my living. Hello.
That's you. That is you. That's where you sent me.
I find that very intimidating and odd. Do you know? could you just when I'm speaking, could you put up pictures of Lynn Jordan? I like her more. I imagined that I would be doing a lot of things. All of them very important, and none of them very funny. I thought that I would, when I was a young man, I thought that, because I talk to people, because I work now with a lot of comics and know even more, and they all, all they wanted to do was do comedy. And I was a far more pretentious youth than that. I wanted to tell truth to the world. Through my art.
In a grand way.
In a grand way. Can't you tell by my manner of speaking?
Yes, of course.
And I thought that if I were ever addressing an audience like this, at the end of my address, my words to you, you would either applaud me and raise me up as your leader, or hang me, and either would have been sufficient at that point. And I was writing these very serious plays. People who find out about my plays, well, some of them don't finish reading them, but others find them very strangely serious. And what happened is that while I was trying to be the great American playwright, I was just cracking a lot of jokes. I always had. I was one of those kids in school who didn't have a lot to offer in terms of looks or athletics or anything. So I would just, I'd make jokes. It was a way of getting through life, and it made friends with everybody. The attractive people and the jocks, And when I first got this job of doing comedy on the radio, at first I was like, well, this isn't going to change the world. And it was a little distressing to me. I never thought I would imagine I would just be making jokes. But it turns out that making jokes makes people really happy.
It really does.
And,
it really does.
And it's actually more important to make people happy than it is to tell them terrifying truths about their own mortality or failures. It took me about 35 years to figure that out, that people would like me more if I made them laugh rather than if I told them what was wrong with everything they believed. And so...
Yeah, not a great way to make friends.
No. But, I'm sorry, that was a long intake of breath to say that I still like to do things that aren't necessarily funny.
As much as you have reinvented yourself, and as much as you have reinvented yourself, Rachel puts you both to shame and sort of schmucks you both because, yes.
I'm sorry.
Yes.
Schmucks us both?
Yes, haven't you heard this expression?
Elizabeth, you're not Jewish, are you?
No, I am not. No, but I have found out that you are one of the top 10 favorite Jewish entertainers of New Jersey.
That's true. New Jersey Jewish News. This is true. Put me on their list of top 10 Jewish entertainers from New Jersey.
Well, that's
yeah,
great.
I know.
Hold that thought.
Is Howie Mandel on the list?
He was probably on it and above me.
So, as fascinating as that is.
Please, by all means, move on.
I'm not sure. I mean, I didn't really fully understand the breadth of what Rachel does until I did more research on her.
Schmucks us both. do you know what the word schmuck means?
It means jeweler.
It means what?
A jeweler.
Oh, no, I didn't know that.
Yeah, it does.
No, I thought it meant...
In German.
Right.
In Yiddish, it means something else.
Yes, I thought it meant sort of like...
Well, I've never heard it used as a verb before. I think it's wonderful.
I think.
Yeah, you've
I think it would imply something very surprising about all three of us if it were true. I think.
Oh, no, only you two.
I'm sorry. No, I will shut up now. You move on and talk to Rachel. Okay.
By tomorrow, this will be like the new Twitter verb. That's like, yeah.
Okay, so I didn't fully understand this about Rachel, but okay, so she is a classical concert violinist, of course. We probably all knew that. But you also have a deep love for sort of finding the unsung heroes of the music world and bringing their music to light. And you also have, I'll say, sort of a Baroque fetish. Is that true? Sort of, yeah?
Yeah, definitely.
Okay. Yes, okay. So
That's actually not a bad description.
You have this little fetish going on with the Baroque. You also have your own foundation where you give money to young musicians that are struggling, as you sort of did as a child as well. But really what surprises me is that you are in a heavy metal shred rock band. Did you guys know that? She's a hardcore rocker.
Great.
So talk about reinventing yourself. And I want to
I would never use that word because I started violin lessons when I was 3.5. By the time I was 5, it took me that long, but by the time I was 5, I really had come to the realization that being a violinist is who I am and who I was meant to be and what I was meant to do with my life. And from that point on, that was it.
At 5.
Yeah. Well, my parents were.
Did you discovered my genitals?
Did you? You were like, where are they? Did you announce that? You were like,
Well, I
Mom,
started
Mother?
signing my papers, Rachel Violinist, and my parents would be like, "Don't you want to put that thing down and go ride your bike? Like, what's wrong with you, kid?" They say that improvisation is really just like really, really, really fast composing.
Right.
And that composing, in a way, is everything you compose is initially spontaneous ideas coming to you. So they're not as far apart. I mean, do you feel that when you're improving the spoken word, that in a way you're just writing really fast?
Well, it's actually reversed for me, which is that on those rare occasions when I feel like I'm writing really well, be it whatever I'm writing, I feel like I'm improving and yet keeping a record of it. I feel like I'm reacting to things in the moment, except instead of somebody else coming up with a joke, I come up with that idea. Oh, it'd be interesting if that went there. Oh, what that inspires me to do is that. And so there's this sort of what they call the zone of free creation.
Right. Yeah. It's interesting to hear that you also feel that you improvise.
Oh, absolutely. Even when I'm playing a style of music where I would not be like adding or changing any actual notes, the way I play the notes is always going to be whatever I feel like, very extemporaneous in that moment, and the crowd is so much a part of that vibe. So, the different acoustic of the hall, different people, with you in that moment and their personalities and moods that they bring. I mean, it's really a collaborative experience.
Yeah,
well, somebody once said that improv is the bastard child of acting and writing, but I think it's acting and performing because you need that base of talent. I remember one episode of Saturday Night Live when Stevie Wonder was the guest host, and as we were blocking the scenes, Stevie just sort of said, "Is there a piano nearby?" And, yeah, and is there any recording? Could somebody tape this for me? And it was, he had to go sit at a piano, and it was like, and this thing just sort of was coming out of him like alien. It was like, and I don't, it doesn't work for me like that. It didn't work. But he just had this thing he had to get it and was like overjoyed, da-da-da-da, and he's da-da-da-da, overjoyed, da-da-da-da.
So he came up with Overjoyed on the set?
And it's just, yeah, the song he was creating, I was like, and I heard it in his next album, I'm going, and it just happened on the floor that day. It just had to come out of him, and I'm going, boy, I wish I had
Wait,
that.
what if he had been like in a place, like what if he had been in an airport and like there was no piano nearby? Like,
That's why I always tell, and when I give lectures, I always tell writers, always keep a notebook and a pencil in your back pocket because those ideas are gone. Like when you wake up in the morning, that wonderful dream you had, by the time you get to the bathroom for that first thing, it's gone. You really have to capture that muse.
I have a tweet actually for everybody. What is the single most important lesson you have learned about your industry? 1, 2, 3, hit it.
can't I wait for my like end of life memoir?
You can take a pass if you want.
I would say stay in the race.
Stay in the
Stay in the
race.
race.
Oh, that's a nice
Just
one.
keep at it. You don't give up. You know, the others will. You know, with hard work and determination, it's that work ethic is. Others will. People have natural gifts. Others will stumble, fall. You keep going, keep on, and always yes and. Be there, show up, do it, donate your time. People doing something, kick in. Don't say that job is too small. That's only a day's worth. Well, I'm not going to do it. Just keep on keeping on, and it'll come.
You can achieve success without compromising your integrity. And, you know, even if you don't achieve the success you hoped for, you'll still be a heck of a lot happier.
Yes,
That's
right.
great.
That's
I'm
true.
in a weird niche because I'm in public radio.
Yes, the world of public radio.
I know, and I don't really know anything about anything else anymore. So I used to be in the theater and I used to be a little bit in Hollywood, but now I'm in public radio. And public radio, being in public radio is like being the Pope.
From a Jewish man.
Only in
Okay.
this way. It's very, very, very hard to get the position.
Yeah.
But once you have the position, the only way to get out is to die.
The public knows about farm to table, and they're wanting these sorts of things, and fermented things, and things where they know that the animals have been well cared for. But I'm not finding that in grocery stores. Do you think that's going to change? That people stop?
I do.
You do. Okay.
Absolutely. The restaurant industry usually leads trends that you see come up, 3, 4, 5 years behind with home cooks.
Yes.
And we talk about, my business partners and I talk about it a lot. We call it the top chefification of our culture, where the normal diner now knows things that only uber foodie geeks knew 10 years ago.
Right, and now everyone's kind of an uber foodie geek.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
But that's great because, again, that's going to
knowledge.
demand a certain echelon from even grocery stores. You'll start to see it change and things like that, yeah.
I don't even know if this happens to you guys because you're all so prolific, but I wonder if you ever have creative ruts, and if so, how do you move through it? Anybody and everybody. Showers. Okay, a shower helps you move through a creative lull.
The back of your brain isn't occupied, so you have free thinking. Some of the best thinking.
Yes, right. When you're not trying to think is when the best stuff comes. It's true.
Or driving.
Or driving. Driving's horrible for me, but shower's great.
I actually am a terrible waster of time. I'm one of those people who, and I learned this about myself early, is that I will wait until the last minute and then do everything in a panic, which seems to work for me. I don't recommend it to anybody else.
Stressful.
It's just a kind of a stressful way, but.
Well, may I jump in here? Some woman once said to Duke Ellington, said, "Mr. Ellington, where do you get your inspiration?" And he said, "Oh, ma'am, I don't need inspiration. I need a deadline."
Yeah.
Absolutely.
To a certain extent.
Absolutely.
Yeah, it's just like, oh my God, if this doesn't get done now, I'm absolutely screwed.
And do you find you function better with that pressure at the end?
Terrifyingly, yes. It's
Yeah.
an awful way to live.
Have
I don't
you had a
recommend it to
hernia
anybody.
yet?
What?
Have you had a hernia yet?
No, but until like 3 weeks ago, I had hair.
Yeah, well, it's like, okay, you're jet lagged, your fingers are prepared, but you're not 100% sure that you're convinced about the interpretation, but you don't have any more inspired thoughts, and you're about to walk out on stage in your dressing room, you're like, oh, what the heck is going on? All you have to do is blast some AC/DC, and then you're like, all right, I'm gonna go do it.